pumped today because you'll never make any money at that. You'll never, ever make any money at that, is what this man was told time and time again. My guest today, I had the pleasure and opportunity to meet my guest about 6 weeks ago in a mastermind. He's the cool looking dude in the house with the Brady Bunch behind him there. I got my own Brady Bunch story. It's funny. I can't wait to hear his. What I recognized about this man in a split second was, you know when you just know, it was a mastermind of 26 people. I was an attendee, and my good friend here now, Jordan Adler, was attendee. And I just listened to this man talk a couple times, and then there was a break. Then there was a meet, you go up and meet somebody that you're kind of like you're magnetized to go meet, right? And I'm no introvert, so I'm going to go ahead and meet who it is that I want to meet. And I thought quickly, I'm going to know this guy for the rest of my days. Like, this is a guy, we're going to get into some mischief together, both positive and who knows, because he's that freaking fun. I could tell that, but he was very, very smart. We got into some really deep conversations into 3 a.m, smoking, and a man of my heart. The guy smoked some of the best cigars. He brought some cigars to this trip. So he goes, hey, he knew the key, right? Because he's like, hey, you down for a good cigar? I go, hell yeah, I thought you'd never ask. And here we are sitting by poolside in the ocean as well. And we're just talking about my history, talking about his history, talking about green fairies and helicopter crashes and all kinds of funky stuff. It's absolutely amazing. You might be blessed with some of these stories today. But the thing that really rang home for me about my guest, Jordan Adler, is he is the one guy I know, and no offense, Jordan, but you are literally the one guy that I know that has absolutely crushed it in network marketing. And you will never make money at that. They told him that every day. They told him that every week. Wait till you hear how he was having such a struggle in his first 10 years because he was bit by the bug that passive income was everything. And he was bit by the bug. And so for 10 years, he got involved in, I could probably name them. They're probably Shackley, Amway, who knows what they were. They were like, all that shit that we ran from. Well, he struggled for the first 10 years, but he did not give up. This man has tenacity. I see Damien in this man. So I'm like, I like this guy. Like, I am they call me the cockroach in the nuclear war. And I'm going to give this guy that badge right now, because to hear what he went through reading his book, Beach Money, I got to tell you, I am going to ask him about a story where he was having such a bad time at this that he went to go talk to his sponsor, and he showed up to their house, and not only was his sponsor and the wife and their kid all nude, naked, buff, no clothes. Wait till we hear the story about that. This is the struggle this man had gone through. And I want to say right now that if I get this wrong, Jordan, you can correct me. He might be the absolute top builder of his little empire for a company that many of you may have heard of called Send Out Cards. Now, I've seen Send Out Cards. They're a 20-year-old company. I've seen Send Out Cards probably 6 different times over the course of my career, and it was always a good idea. It was always a good idea to, send cards to people and thank them and appreciate them. And how much do we appreciate real handwritten notes, right? And, it's just, I've always taken a look at this opportunity, but here's the point. This isn't about Send Out Cards today. You're not even going to get an invite to join Send Out Cards today. The happy hour, we don't sell anything. That's not what this is about. The stories that this man had endured and had gotten to a place where he is extremely successful now, financially set, doesn't need to work, flies helicopters for a hobby all around Las Vegas where he's from, has the best shades on this side of the planet. I told him I'm stealing his look. I'm keeping my hair, but I'm stealing his look. I got to get those shades. This man is amazing. He's my new friend, Jordan Adler, author of Beach Money and Better Than Beach Money. Say hi to the Go Mobile community, man.
I'm going to share some fun stories and just go through some things. I know you'll probably have some questions for me afterwards. I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly. I've got a lot to cover and a lot of great fun stories and ideas for everyone. So I want to start by just telling you a story. I was in, I found that the greatest breakthroughs that happen in our lives happen as a result of meeting one person. And I want to share a story with you. I was in Salt Lake City. I'd written, when I was at 47 years old, I wrote in my dream journal, I wrote a goal, and it was space traveler. And this was before anyone in the world was talking about civilian space travel. I wrote this in a journal. And as I was writing it at the age of 47, I remember saying to myself, this will never happen. But I wrote it anyway. Well, years later, years later, I'm in Salt Lake City at a Marriott, and I'm usually the first one up in the morning, and I go downstairs to the Starbucks, and I'm sitting down by the Starbucks and waiting for the Starbucks to open. And this woman with red hair walks over to me, and she's from New Zealand, and we start talking. She's the only one else down there. I was down there and she was down there. That was it. And I asked her what she did, and she said she's a travel agent. And, knowing a little bit about the travel business and the internet and what that did to the travel agency business, I said to her, how's it going? Thinking that she'd probably say, oh, I'm struggling. It's been pretty tough. And she says, oh man, I've just had my best year ever. And I go, really? I go, what do you do? She says, I book space. I go, space? And I'm thinking space on hotel rooms, space and cruise ships. No, she points up and she says space. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, I sell tickets on Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic civilian space program. I go, really? And I started asking her questions. Well, that was the end of it. I didn't tell her about my journal. I thought of it, but I didn't tell her about it. I went back to my place in the mountains of Arizona, started going through old boxes, and I found a box of my old journals, and I found the journal, and I started looking through it. I'm looking for this one thing that I wrote, and I found it where it says space traveler, number 8 on a list. And then literally within a week, they contacted me and said, we're going to be in Vegas. Do you want to meet? And I'm like, this is before, they haven't built a single spaceship yet. There's no spaceport. Everything's on a brochure. It was just Richard Branson's dream, his vision. And so I met with them in Vegas. They showed me the brochures. They said, you're going to go 2,400 miles an hour. You're going to go 3 times the speed of sound. You're going to experience weightlessness and be able to say that you're an astronaut. And I so on my 57th birthday, I wired $250,000 to Virgin Galactic, and I'm on the list to go to space. It's probably going to happen in the next few years. But the cool thing about it is, as a result of that, I've got to spend many hours with Richard Branson and get to know him. And I knew when I wired the money that it wasn't just about the trip to space, although that's really exciting. Besides the fact that I can tell the story on podcasts and from the stage, what it did, though, is it opened up a whole community to me of mega successful people. And I got to know Richard Branson. I was there at the launch where he went to space on a test flight. It was a very small group of people that were invited.
That was just last year, right?
Yeah, the space flight was last year that Richard went up. And I was with him at the after party with the Virgin Galactic employees. I was on his island for a week where we did breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were in the hot tub, out on the boat, playing chess, playing tennis, so I got that opportunity. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if you look back on your life, everything great that's ever happened to you is a result of meeting one person at the right time. Everything. Think about it. And so what I'm going to do, I like to look at things from a different perspective than most people. You look like you want to say something, Damien.
No, actually, I don't want to interrupt what this rip you're on. I got something when you conclude that.
When I conclude, well, I'm done with this. I'm going into it next.
Okay, so I just want to point out something that I learned in his book that is right in line with what he just talked about now, and that is the use of journals. And so what Jordan did was he journaled the vision.
I'm going to tell this story, Damien. So
I won't steal the thunder. When he tells this story, I want you to think about journaling, and I want you to think of how that could serve purpose in your life, especially when he gives you the exact example how he used it. It's mind-blowing. And it was right in the beginning of this book. It's amazing, Jordan. Hit it.
Absolutely. So here's a lot of this has to do with how you look at things and how you view things. And whenever you're up against a challenge, whether it be you're trying to break through to the next level, you're just trying to get started, you've hit some major obstacles, financial obstacles, or you just really don't know, what your next move is, whatever challenge it is. A lot of times it's just a matter of stepping back from it and looking at it from a different perspective. We're going to do a little exercise now, and I'm going to actually have you learn a new system. And now here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your hands off your keyboard, no calculators, no phones, no pens and paper, set everything down, just you and me and the screen. That's all I want you to do. And I want you to learn, I want you to learn this example right here. I'm giving you a new system here, a new numbering system. I want you to just look at it and learn it. Now, I'm just going to ask Damien a question as we're doing this. Damien, don't say anything else except for the answer to this question. How long should it take somebody to learn this?
Pretty instantly.
Probably 3 seconds, right? At the most.
I would say 3.5 to be precise.
3.5 seconds. But I'm going to give you a full minute to learn it. So, and I'm going to probably motivate you just a little bit while you're doing it. Because I'm going to cheer you on a little bit, and I'm going to encourage you, and I'm going to tell you you can do it. So I want no pens, no phones, no picture taking. Set your pens down, everything, just the screen. And I want you to learn this system. And I'm going to give you 60 seconds. We're probably about 35 seconds in right now. Going to give you another 25 seconds to learn it. And I'm going to give you a full 60 seconds. And you only need about 3 seconds, but I'm going to give you 60 seconds. So at that point, I'm going to pop a number on the screen. So you should see that pop up here in just a minute. For some reason, it just froze on me here. Hang on. My screen just froze on me. Not good. Well, I'm giving you extra time to learn it. You know what? I'm going to see if I can get out of it. Hang on here. I'm going to go back to this. All right, there we go. There's the number. Are we still sharing? Is the screen still sharing? It's not. Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Okay, good. So there's the number. Now, here's what I found, and this is a little different because we're online. I want, if you, in the comments, if you are 100% sure that you can tell me this number, just put a Y for yes. Just put a yes or a Y in the comments. If you're 100% sure, every one of them, all right? If you're not sure, put an N for no. And if you are possibly sure, put an M for maybe. Just drop that in the comments. Now, here's what I found. If I've done this exercise for over 1,000 people at the same time. And once in a while, out of 1,000, there'll be 2 or 3 or 4 people that will say yes, 100% from 1 minute. But you only need 3 seconds. It all has to do with the way you're viewing it. Check this out. I can motivate you. I can tell you to try harder. Just like we do in business, we encourage people, but sometimes that doesn't even make a difference. What if you just knew this? So take a look at that. Now, do you know the number? Take a look. Upper right, it's just a different way of looking at it. Same exercise, just a different way of looking at it. So the symbol on the left is an 8. The symbol just to the right of the 8 is a 3. The symbol just to the right of that is a 9. And then, of course, 5 is in the middle. You guys got it. 6 and then 1. All right. Okay. So now, if you understand it now, if you get it now, type in the comments, I got it. Type in the comments, I got it. Now, what's the difference? It's just a different way of looking at it. And this is the same as life and business. You wonder why some people, it seems to be so easy, and other people, it's tough. It's because they're looking at things differently. It's what they're choosing to focus on, what they're seeing. Sometimes it means getting around somebody that's done it before you. And so this is why when you get around people that are more successful than you, when I get around people that are way more successful than me, they see things differently than I do. And so when I'm around them, I can learn the way that they think. I can learn their systems, the things that cause them to have breakthroughs that I haven't had yet, or that I haven't been able, like things that are really frustrating to me. Like, what is it about the way I'm viewing it? What happens if you make that shift? So I'm going to give you 10 things that are very simple, but just by looking at them differently and applying these 10 things to your business, to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, it can completely transform your business. So here it is, formula for transforming any business. Here we go. Number 1, having the perspective of who can I sell to versus who can I collaborate with. Any one of these can transform your business overnight. If you go from I'm trying to sell to I'm looking to collaborate with people. Here's the second one: linear income versus nonlinear income. Linear income is working once and getting paid once. That's the sale, where there's nothing that happens after the sale, versus nonlinear income, where you work one time and get paid hundreds of times. And there are many, many, many vehicles. Rental real estate is nonlinear income because people are paying their rent every month. And if you've got a mortgage payment or no payment that's less than the income, then you've got a profit, right? And income and expenses. There's network marketing produces nonlinear income. It's a powerful way to do it, especially if you don't have a lot of money to invest. There's vending machines, there's ways to do that's a nonlinear income once you get profitable. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Here's another one. Any one of these can transform your business. Being transactionally driven, focusing on the transaction in your values, your beliefs, and your actions versus being mission driven. Companies that are mission driven, like Apple, like FedEx, I could name a bunch of them, right? Amazon, they're mission driven versus transactionally driven. And the result of that is they've built multi-billion dollar companies. Being a quitter versus a problem solver. This one right here, this, Damien, from reading my book, this was life-changing for me. When I went from being a quitter, which I did for many years, to being a problem solver. In fact, I was in 10 companies. I was in 11 companies in 10 years, never made a penny, never signed up one customer or affiliate. And I never, nothing. In fact, my first 10 years. In fact, after 10 years, 11 different companies, I was living in an enclosed garage at the age of 34 years old. My rent was $200 a month. I had a broken down Jeep in the street that I couldn't afford to fix. My job was paying me $14,000 a year. The airline that I worked for just cut my pay. I was 34 years old. This was my life, but I was a quitter, and I shifted to becoming a problem solver. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah, I know there's a lot we could talk about.
I don't know how you did that 10 years. Most would give up at least at year 5.
I did. The problem, Damien, is I gave up. I gave up over and over and over again. That was the problem. The problem was I was quitting, then getting started again, and then quitting and getting started again, instead of focusing on figuring out the solution to the problem so I could elevate myself to the next level.
I think many of you on here can relate to Jordan's story right there. Tell me in the chat if you can.
Yeah, put it in the chat if you can relate. Say, I can relate. Being a lone ranger versus a team builder. You can't do it on your own. If you want to break through whatever barrier you're at, if you want to break through and take it to a new level, it's all about your team. And I'm going to get into some real specifics on that in my training here. And then the other question, you probably heard of the book by Dan Sullivan called Who versus How. Rather than trying to learn how to do everything, find people that love it, that are really good at it, and get to know them, build relationships with them. That will elevate you and transform your business. Focusing on the sale versus a lifetime friend or a client. There's a lot to think about and a lot to talk about on each one of these, but I'm going to move through them quickly. Any one of these can transform your business. Focusing on the sale versus a lifetime friend client. The lifetime value of a customer. We're going to talk a little about that. Incremental, step-by-step versus exponential strategy. We think as human beings in an incremental, step-by-step way, but in a strategic way, we can create exponential growth. And, oh man, I got to do something here. Hang on. Hey, Damien, can you read that last one for me? I can't see it.
The same versus unique. How can I transform this?
Yeah, same versus unique. So in other words, instead of always doing it the way you've always done it, step back from it and say, what can I do to transform this, make it completely different, completely new, and accomplish what we want to accomplish. And man, I've got stories around that stuff. So I'm going to give you lots of examples and lots of stories that are all related to that list. So this is actually a trademarked image. I own this image. And when I saw it, I bought it from somebody. When I saw it for the first time, I didn't really understand what it was. And then somebody said, imagine that's someone you know in the middle, someone that's successful. And imagine they know 3 people really well. And then imagine those 3 people know 3 people really well. There's 9. So these are levels. So if you look at that outside ring, 7 levels deep, it's like the 6 degrees of separation or the Kevin Bacon factor. I met Damien. All right. We met in Cabo at a JV retreat. And if you can imagine, that's Damien in the middle. Now, Damien knows more than 3 people, but let's just say he's got 3 really strong connections. If I build a strong relationship with Damien, he is very comfortable introducing those people to me. But he wouldn't be comfortable introducing those people to me if he didn't know me. And he wouldn't feel comfortable introducing those people to me if he didn't trust me. So you have access to the network of every person you meet when you build that solid relationship. So I want you to think about this, man. There's a major delay on my computer here. I don't know what's happening with my slides, but I'm going to just keep going and hopefully it'll pop up here in a second. But because I'm clicking my slides and nothing's happening. So if you can imagine a hummingbird flying into, in fact, I'll just tell you a story. I have a home in the mountains in Arizona. And it's an old ghost town. And on the 3rd level, I've got this screen door that goes out under this deck. And one day I was getting ready to leave for a couple of weeks, and a hummingbird flew into my living room and flew right over to the big picture window. And it was flying against the window, and I'm getting ready to leave. And I know if I can't get that hummingbird out of my house, I'm gonna find him dead on the windowsill when I get back. And I had that screen door open, and for 2 hours, I was pissing the hummingbird off and he was pissing me off. I was trying to get him out of my house so I could leave, but I couldn't get him to see the door, which was right behind him. The door was, and I couldn't catch him. He was too fast. And so I'm going to try this again. Yeah, my gosh darn it. We might have to have a talk here, Damien. My screen's not working. I'm going to try releasing it again and going back into it. But so anyway, after fighting with the hummingbird for a couple hours, he got tired and I was able to get him outside and he flew off. So the hummingbird's fine. But here's what you want to get out of that. The hummingbird knows how to fly. It's not that he needs a better hummingbird flying coach. He knows how to fly. The answer was to shift its focus and it could effortlessly fly to freedom. One direction represents struggle and death, and the other direction is effortless and leads to freedom. And that's all the hummingbird had to do was shift its focus, and it could have an exponentially better result. No matter how hard that hummingbird tried flying towards the window, its ultimate destination was death. And so the reason I share that with you is because I'm going to share a story now. I'm going to try and release. Oh, the hummingbird just came up. Did you see that? Let me go back. There's the hummingbird. Okay.
There he is.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard the story, Damien, but there was somebody years ago that was talking negatively about me on the internet. And he was using one of those
full screen. Derek says it might work better.
Exit full screen.
Sorry to interrupt there.
No, like that? Well, I have to do full screen to share.
Okay, cool.
You're fine. You got it working.
Yeah,
I was just saying while it was frozen. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's working now. So you know that there's a scam strategy out there that some online marketers use where they drive traffic to their website by saying scam on everything, and they look for things that get a lot of attention on the internet, and then they call it a scam, and that drives traffic to their website. Well, this guy knew nothing about me. I've never heard of him before. His name was Jason Isaacson. And I wasn't happy about it. He was using my name to drive traffic to his website. And I talked to a friend and I said, I really need to get this off the internet. What do I need to do? Because it's all over the place. And he said, the attorney says, we'll do a letter, $250. We'll certify it. We'll send it to him, threaten him, and he'll pull it down. And I wanted to sleep on that for a minute, just because it's not my style, but I wanted to think about it for the night. The next morning I woke up and I said, you know what? I'm going to use my system. We've got a system. I'm going to use my system to send this guy a card, a simple card with coffee on the front. and I'm going to put a $5 Starbucks card in it. And I sent that to him. And about 10 days later, I went back to his website and all the negative stuff was down, everything. But a picture of the card and the Starbucks card was on his website with big letters underneath it that said, Jordan Adler is the smartest marketer I've ever met. He literally pulled down, and this cost me $10 for the card, the shipping, the card, the postage, and the gift card. And the story doesn't end there. I mean, that in and of itself was a great story, but the story doesn't end there because we end up in a conversation together. And he asked me what I did, and I told him, and he said, I want to do that. I could promote that like crazy. So he signs up with me, and over the next 3 years, he becomes our top recruiter and drove literally thousands and thousands and thousands of monthly paying customers into my organization. And to this day, I still receive a 4-figure monthly residual check as a result of work he did 13 years ago, because I sent him a card and a Starbucks card instead of a threatening letter, which probably he would have turned that into more negativity just to drive more traffic, I would suspect.
I gotta commend you, Jordan, because the 22-year-old, 23-year-old businessman, Damien, would have had 3 lawyers on the phone and, learned all my valuable lessons on that garbage. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I mean, in this internet marketing world, like some of us, my peers out there, there'll be people that'll take our courses and sell them for $3 on the internet. Like it's
so grab your course and sell it for a course that you sell and you use to, I know what you're saying.
It's wild, right? And so you instantly want to like send a nuclear bomb to their house, right? And you're just like, and you send a Starbucks card for $5. Total reverse psychology going on. And what's that guy going to do? Is he going to talk worse about you? No, you went for like a full on, put it all out there bet of like, you had no way to lose. You had no way to lose. That's a hummingbird. That's a hummingbird move. That's shifting your focus into a different direction to create a completely different result. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So
really
take a look. So imagine this. Every person you meet, some people have small networks, some people are driven, some people are ambitious, some people move real slow in life, some people move real fast in life. But as you meet people, that there's certain people that if you built a relationship with them, they could help you make things happen. What if you intentionally started to build relationships with people? So I'm going to give you, these are real life examples. Gloria McDonald, Laurel Langmeyer, Robert Blackman, Conrad, I can't pronounce his last name because he's from Poland, and Patrick. These are all people that I've built relationships with. And as a result of building because I've become friends with them, now we're collaborating. I didn't try and sell them. We're collaborating. And this is their community. Gloria has 100,000 people in her community. Laurel has over 2 million in her community. Robert has over 10,000. Conrad, one of the largest real estate investment groups in the world, 450,000 people in his community. What happens in your business when you collaborate with people like this? By focusing on the relationship with them versus the transaction. So I started doing this a number of years ago, and it completely transformed my business. Rather than trying to sell somebody on whatever it is you have, building joint venture relationships, collaboration relationships with them. So this is the story that Damien was referring to, and I'm going to show you real life visuals. That was my room when I was 34 years old. If you look on the left there, my rent was $200 per month. I had 30. Damien, you want to say something?
I hear visuals. Are you about to show us the family that was nude?
Not yet, but I will tell that story. That wasn't in my talk. So that was where I was living, and my Jeep was parked in the street, and it had been broken down for 2 years. And I never had success in anything that I'd ever done. I'd done a lot of things. In fact, check this out. If you look at my little thumbnail picture, these were my credit. Oh, you can't see them because of the Brady Bunch. Let's see. These were my credit cards. I had 22 credit cards, $36,000 in debt on 22 credit cards. You can kind of see them. Anyway, yeah, $36,000 in debt on 22 credit cards. And I joined my 12th company. And I finally figured out how to give a very simple presentation. I figured out how to set an appointment. And I met a guy that told me that if I would personally sign up, if I would personally sign up one person a month for a couple of years, that I would become financially free. And I believed him. He was a successful young guy living in this big, beautiful home with a circle drive and a fountain in the out front. And he had a beautiful library in his home. We met at a coffee place and we became friends. We never went into business together. He was married with a little baby. And he told me that in the business of recruiting, you need to be prepared to sponsor 20 to 30 people. This is in my business. Every model's different. You need to be prepared to sponsor 20 to 30 people. And out of those 20 to 30 people, a third of them will do nothing. A third of them will do a little. A third will do a little more than a little. And one out of 20 to 30 will do something worth talking about. So if you're a real estate broker and you're hiring agents, if you ask a real estate broker, in fact, drop in the comments, how many realtors do you think you need to get trained to find one that's going to make $100,000 a year? How many realtors do you think you need to get trained to find one that's going to make $100,000 a year? Drop a number into the comments down below. And I'll tell you, so what he told me is in real estate, he said, you need to be prepared to find 50 people that will pay $2,000 to $5,000 to get the real estate license to find one that will make $100,000 a year. And so I heard Russ telling me this, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. If I do 3 presentations a week, every single week, 12 a month, just 12 a month, 3 a week, do that for 2 years. So every month I do 12 presentations. If 11 of them said no, and one saw it the way I saw it every month, just one a month for 2 years, I will have personally sponsored 24 people, one a month for 2 years. And so I started grabbing people from the office where I worked and bringing them down to that coffee plantation on the right on Mill Avenue in Tempe, Arizona. My rental home where I was living, where I was paying $200 a month, that was less than probably a half mile from that coffee plantation. And I would go and I'd sit down 2 or 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and show somebody what I was up to. And every month I signed up one person. Well, here's what happened. I didn't meet my goal after 2 years. Now, keep in mind, I'd been in 11 other companies before this and never made a penny. After 2 years, I'd signed up 19 people. My 16th person was a lady named Jackie Ulmer. 16. First 15 did nothing. My 16th person was a lady named Jackie Ulmer. And Jackie knew a woman in New Mexico. Jackie was an analyst at the airline. Her husband was an airline pilot. She had a friend in New Mexico named Judy Dubiel, who was a secretary and a student. Judy started inviting people to take a look at what we were doing. And here's what happened. Over the next 3 years, her group grew to 12,000 people and 40,000 customers. And while I was living in that garage, I was well on my way to having my first $1 million year. In fact, I left the garage, got a nicer place, then got a second place, then I got a couple cars, then I was flying around on private jets. But in 13 years, I signed up 129 people in 144 months, which is 13 years, 129 people in 144 months. 5 of those 129, just 5 out of 129, 5 built me a group of over 85,000 distributors and 85,000 distributors and 250,000 customers. And I made millions and millions and millions of dollars in my 12th company after not getting a penny in any of the others. By the way, all along the time until I started building that 12th company, I had a job. And none of my jobs ever paid me more than 30 grand in a year. Not one. And I was in many jobs over the course of that 10-year period. So that company went away because of a massive change in technology. It was a telecom network marketing company. So, the whole industry went digital and we had hundreds of millions. Excel.
Got it.
ACN's still around.
Yeah.
I never was with ACN. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, so what Damien was talking about is one of the companies that I was in my first 10 years. One of the companies was a 3D camera company.
Oh, yes.
I had no money. I put $300 on one of my credit cards to buy this camera that was a 3D camera, and then you ship the film off to Sparks, Nevada, to be developed, and weeks later it would come back. And
God, we're showing our age now.
Yeah, I didn't understand the network marketing model at all, as far as how to pick a company or, residual income. I really didn't understand it all that well. And so I joined this company, and my sponsor invited me over to his home to get my first training. So I just signed up in the thing, and I show up at this guy's front door, and literally he opens the door, and he looks like Mick Jagger, and he's literally butt naked, like head to toe, not a stitch of clothes on him. His wife's sitting on the couch naked, and their little kids running around naked. And I put my hands up like this, and I said, Michael, the 3D camera business is not for me. And I walked away. That was it. I had no idea. Yeah. So here's what happened. I was living in that rental that I was just showing you there, that little rental. There's railroad tracks behind that house. There's railroad tracks that run behind that house. I was really depressed. I was into this by a number of months and I mean a number of years, and I wasn't making any money at anything I was doing, and I was really depressed. My bed, I had a little nightstand with a wooden plank on it. That was my night, 2 little cinder blocks and a wooden plank. I owned 1 suit. I was really like I was doing the macaroni and cheese and tuna fish because I couldn't afford food. It was really bad and super depressed. And one night I decided, it was a rainy, cold night in Arizona, and I decided I was going to walk the railroad tracks. And I walked out there. It was late at night. It was dark. It was raining. The wind was blowing, and it was cold. And I was like super depressed. I remember this. Wasn't going to do anything desperate, but I was really a mess. And I was trying to figure out, what do I do? Well, I worked for an airline at the time, and my pay was, the airline was in bankruptcy, and they cut my pay to $14,000 a year. So I'm making $14,000 a year, but I did have past benefits, and I'd never been to the Grand Canyon. And the next morning I did something that I'd read in many books, but I never took any action on. And that was, I got a journal, and I got on a little puddle jumper, and I flew to the Grand Canyon from Phoenix, Arizona. And I walked out, and, there's no video or picture that can capture the beauty of the Grand Canyon. It was just absolutely like, this doesn't even, if you've never been there, you can't even imagine how beautiful and how massive it is and how breathtaking it is. And I just breathed in the air and took it in. And then I took that journal and a blue felt tip pen, and I walked out into the forest. And I walked like literally a couple of miles into the forest. And I found this big oak tree, and I sat down, and it was a beautiful day. It was like 70 degrees. And I started doing what every personal development author told me to do for so many years, but I never did it. I started writing in the journal my perfect life, but I did it in the present tense, as if it had already happened. So I'm writing in the present tense, like this is my reality today, but it was not my reality. It was in the future. And I started writing, and what happened was the clouds started building up over the mountain, and very rapidly the temperature dropped like 30 degrees, and it started to rain, and then it started to ice and snow and sleet. And I'm in the forest freezing because I'm not dressed for it. And I take that journal and I hold it close to my chest, and I start walking back towards the rim of the canyon. I get there, and I walk into the Bright Angel Lodge. Some of you might know of it. You might have heard of it. I walk into the Bright Angel Lodge, and they've got this big fireplace with this big fire going, and there's all these beautiful, colorful cushions around. And I sit on the ground, and I continue to write, and I wrote pages and pages and pages of my life in the present tense, as if it had already happened. So at that point, my life was living in that garage, and my job was paying me 14 grand a year. I got back to my little garage, and I put that journal on my nightstand, which was the 2 cinder blocks and the plywood. And every night I would pick it up, and I would read a couple pages from it. Well, after a year, nothing in that journal had happened, nothing. And I was really frustrated. I remember being really depleted. And I took the journal and I threw it in the closet, and it landed on the top of a box. And then years later, I'm moving into my dream home in the forest in Arizona. And I'm unpacking boxes. I'm with my girlfriend at the time, and I open this box, and that journal is sitting on the top. And I didn't even remember what was in it. And I opened it up, and I start reading the pages. And this is what my life looked like in that journal. This is what my life looked like in that journal. I had literally designed my future life. So today I'm a helicopter pilot. Today I'm scheduled to go to space. I've got beautiful sports cars that I love for a hobby. I've got multiple residences, and I've got relationships with friends all over the world. There's not a country, the very few countries in the world that I can't go where I've got people that are friends. So that was a manifestation that happened as a result of me writing down. Damien mentioned that early on, writing down, having that vision to write down what
That's why I'm glad I didn't steal your thunder, because you nailed this. Like that's something that I have always been coached to do, and we never do the stuff that we know we're supposed to do, right? And so my good friend, as you know, I've mentioned to you, I told you about my partner Yannick Silver. He's big on journaling. He's huge on journaling, and I'm actually going to make a new commitment because I bought my wife a journal last year. She started using it this year, and she gave me some really good feedback that I could see some growth happen. And I said, you know what, that's it. I'm done hearing about it. And now right here as well, reading about it, hearing about it, and seeing how, how key it has been to your success. And it's true. It's what we've always heard.
Hey, how are we doing on time? I got a little bit more. I wanted to, should I keep going, or do you want to do some questions?
We go till 6:30, which is 5:30 your time.
Oh, 45 more minutes. Yep. Okay, good. All right, so I'll go
lightning round and take you through some Q&A, because I know Steve and Joe Messiah's on here. He's probably got some questions. We're gonna roll, man.
All right, good. Let me. Oh, you there? You still with me?
Yep.
I'm just checking my battery life. I'm good on my battery life. Okay, we'll keep going here. We're casual here. All right. So this is actually my downstairs. It's a 4-level home in Jerome, Arizona. It's a very eclectic town. It's a historic ghost town. It looks like something maybe in an old part of Europe. And I would be there. I'm there like anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks per month. And I get up to my, and it's just me. And I get to my home and I go downstairs. I'd been gone for a month, and there was a Budweiser beer can sitting on that pool table. And I'm like, where did this Bud? I don't drink Bud. Where did this Bud? I didn't have a party. Like, where did this Budweiser beer can come from? And I take it and I throw it away, and I look around the house. Everything's in place. Everything's there. Nothing's out of place. All the doors are locked. And then so I go do my life, and I leave, and I'm gone for a couple of weeks, and I come back and I'm doing laundry, and I notice one of the windows in the back was open, and I'd never opened it since I'd lived in the home. So I closed it and locked it, looked around, everything was in place. And then I come back a third time, and the bedroom door on the 3rd level is locked from the inside, dead bolted from the inside. And it's on the 3rd level. So it's a long way down from that level. And I have to I can break a window, or I can hire a locksmith. So I hire a locksmith. So this went on for 4 months. Things were happening. My lights were left on. I couldn't figure out how it was happening. It's a ghost town, right? It's known as the largest, it's the most famous ghost town in the United States, Jerome, Arizona. Some of you might have heard of it, but I couldn't figure out what the heck was happening in my house. Well, one day I came home, and there was a boot print on a dresser and an air conditioning unit. And it had to be 2 guys, but they were coming in when I was gone. They'd come in and use my house while I was gone. And then they would hear me coming down the driveway, and they'd escape out the back of the house or jump off the deck or whatever, but they would leave the house. And they did this. They had been doing this for months. They never stole change off the dresser. They never stole anything. They just used my house while I was gone. We had it fingerprinted. We really never figured out who it was. But for the first time in my life, I needed a security alarm system. And I've probably met 25 security alarm system people in my career, in my life. I couldn't tell you the name of one of them, not one, because I'd get their business card, throw it away, never needed an alarm system. But for the past 15 years, I've been paying a monthly monitoring fee to an alarm system that I got off the internet, because the security alarm system person that met me never stayed in touch with me. He or she never let me know that they cared. So one piece of advice I would give you that's life-changing is stay in touch with the people you meet in a meaningful way. Like, if you don't have a system for doing that in today's world, and I'm not talking about emails. Emails are great, but most people, only 17% of emails even get opened, much less read. So you've got to do stuff that's a little bit extra special. It doesn't mean you do this with everyone, but there's certain people. Like, I had a successful career, and there's certain people that, if you meet somebody that's successful, that's a potential client, you want to do something that you can stay in touch with those people. That's going to make them remember you. So in Harvey McKay's book, Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive, You may have heard of that. He said, you can predict the future of someone's income by looking at the size of their Rolodex. Now, if you don't know what a Rolodex is, you're probably under the age of 45. You probably think a Rolodex is an expensive watch. No, a Rolodex is the thing you buy at the thrift store or at the Goodwill that looks like that thing on the left. You know, I went out when I was younger and bought one of these. Today, our Rolodex is in our phone. But you can predict the future of someone's income by looking at the size of their Rolodex. The most successful people have the biggest Rolodexes.
Rolodexes are so much easier to work than these.
I know. Yeah, because you just scroll through it. So these are two of the most important lessons that I've learned. That was in Harvey McKay's book, but then in Joe Girard's book, How to Sell Anything to Anyone, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records as being the #1 car salesman in the world, and he still holds the record today. He took that record in the 70s, I believe, and he still holds the record today. And what Joe did is every single person that he would meet, he would handwrite him a note, but not just one note. Damien, if you met Joe, you would receive a note from Joe every single month for as long as he knew you. And what happened was he had so many people that he had met, so many people that he'd sold cars to, that he had to hire a team of 14 people that did nothing but handwrite his notes and mail them every single day. So he would send out thousands of notes per month. One note would say, nice to meet you, signed Joe. 1 month would say, stop in and see me. I haven't seen you in a while, signed Joe. 1 month would say, happy birthday, I'm thinking of you, signed Joe. 1 month would say, Merry Christmas, signed Joe. And he made sure that everybody received. Now, this is how Joe did it. He made sure that people knew that he cared about them and they remembered him as somebody extra special. And what was the result of that? Joe never had to do any marketing at all. Every day he would come to work, there would be a line of people waiting for the doors to unlock to come in and buy from Joe. Because if you had a daughter that needed a car, who would you send them to? You'd send them to Joe. Joe's a nice guy. He stays in touch with me. He sells cars. You need to see Joe. I trust him. So if you were ready to buy another car and trade your car in, you'd go see Joe. And Joe had thousands and thousands of people that wanted to buy cars from him. He didn't need to sell at all. And he writes about this a lot in his book. Now, in today's technology, you know, we're in a world of technology and these principles still apply. I'm just telling you the stories about the way they did it back then. But when you focus on building collaborations and relationships with people at a deep level and making yourself known as somebody who really cares, people will do business with you and they'll tell people about you. You can, with 20 strong alliances, you can build a massive business. So I'm going to just keep rolling. We're going to get through this. I'm probably going to take another 10 minutes and then I'm going to just turn it over to you, Damien, and we'll answer questions. So let's take 100 random contacts, 100 random contacts, people that you know. You're all business people, all different levels, but the average business person probably has 1,000 solid relationships. Just because you are who you are, out of those 100, 3 of them are probably going to do business with you. And if you've got an online marketing business or an offline business, you know, everybody has a certain profile or an avatar of who their best customer is, and a lifetime value of a customer, meaning through their referrals and their business with you. If you had somebody for their lifetime and they were yours forever, how much business would they do over the course of their lifetime? In real estate, you know, the lifetime value of a customer can be $100 grand. You know, real estate commissions, multiple homes purchased, referrals to family members and friends could be $100 grand. I'm going to use $10,000. So 100 contacts, just because you are who you are, 3 of those will do business with you. But if you send each one of them a nice to meet you note, however you do it, whether you use technology or you do it old school, because there's technology today that allows you to do that. That's my business. But if you send all 100 a nice to meet you note, 2 more of them are going to do business with you. That's 20 grand if your lifetime value is $10,000. 10,000, which is low for lifetime value of a customer. If you place a call to all of them, I can tell you they're not going to answer the phone. You're going to get their voicemail. And you just say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Wanted to let you know that I'm here for you if you ever need anything. Let's touch base sometime, maybe get together. Place a call like that. 2 more. So now you're up to not 3, but you're up to 7 people of the 100 have done business with you. That's going to add $20,000 more to your revenue, send each one of them a gift. What if you sent all 100 customers a gift, even if it's a small gift? There's easy ways to do that today. That's going to add 40,000. Remember their birthday, that's going to add another 40,000. Set up a personal meeting with them. You can't do that with everybody, but you can do Zooms and you can meet with some of them. That'll add another 30,000. If you refer business to them, listen, you do that, and if the lifetime value of your customer is $10,000, you just added $170,000 worth of revenue. And this is just this is 100 people. So these are all concepts and ideas, different ways of thinking of things. So Gail and Steve Zintek are friends of mine. Of course, they're friends of mine. They're business people and we do business together, but they're also friends. And they live in Michigan, and they were okay real estate agents 8 years ago, just okay. They'd sell a few homes a year. And they started doing something that they'd never done before. These things that we talked about here on the left. They were at a Chamber of Commerce event, and there was catering set up. And the caterers had a little business card stand set up. So she grabbed their business card and she took some pictures of them. And she ended up sending them a card with the gift. And on the back of the card, she had a real estate brand. And they needed to sell their home. So they contacted her and Steve. Well, she stayed in touch with them. She made sure they remembered her and Steve. And over the next 5 years, she and Steve sold them 8 homes. Their daughter got married. They needed a home. They needed to sell a home. They referred some people. And so $150,000 in commissions from one person. So think about this. If you did this with your key clients, what I'm going to show you here, this is a 2-minute video. If you did this with your key clients, what would happen? Here you go.
All right, so our really good friend, Jordan Adler, has sent us a gift, and we have Ricky flexing, my hot husband. He really likes that picture. And then I have my babies. But I mean, like, what in the world is this? Like, look how pretty the world. And it's so nicely wrapped. Thank you, Jordan. Super excited.
He is the best.
I know. What is this
Armor.
sending us? Is it you? Because you couldn't come to our fall costume party this year, that we have you like in a life-size blow-up doll or something, and we can just have you at our next party.
That must be a box full of money.
Really? No way.
Wait, it's a new Louis.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be amazing.
She kind of freaked me out with that knife, the way she's swinging it around.
All right.
Look at her, it's like Christmas.
What?
It's like Christmas.
This is early. This is early. Oh, it's a lot of confetti.
Here's the way you set yourself
All
apart.
right, guys, wait for it, all right? Wait for it. Oh my gosh. I love this. I love this. Oh, another bucket list. Oh, we can actually write down all of our dreams. Oh, it's a map.
Oh, Matt, cool.
Oh my goodness, a bucket list map. You're so sweet. My goodness. I love it. I'm like making sure there's nothing else. There's so much in here. Aw, I love this. I know it's so funny, but I actually honestly would like kind of do something with the world because of the wrapping. So thank you so much. We love
We love
you.
you, Jordan.
Mwah.
So that gift cost me $100, $120 with shipping. And it resulted in 320 $100 sales. This one gift resulted in 320 $100 sales. And that's just the beginning. It's still going because it's the holidays right now. So I just wanted to share that with you because it's something that you can do that is very easy to understand and simple to do that most people don't do. So it sets you apart. People talk about you. They'll post about you on social media. They'll be more likely to refer people to you, and they'll come back and do business with you again and again and again and again.
That is so cool.
Now wait till you see this one, Damien. This is going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. All right. So I'm going to share the video. I'm going to do something right now, and then I will talk about it. This is real. What I'm going to do right now. This is a real deal. This is a real $100 bill, and I'm going to auction this $100 bill off to you. So I'm going to start off with this. If you are willing to give me $50 for this $100 bill, can I have you stand up? It's a real auction. If you're willing. Okay, if you're willing to give me $75 for this $100 bill, please remain standing. Some of you just stood up. Wait a minute. I just raised the price by $25 and about 20 people just stood up. Half the crowd is still standing and you're willing to give me $100 for a $100 bill. How many of you give me $110 for it? 120? 125? Oh, come on, man, it's my signature. 150, 175, $200, 250, 300, 350, 400. Tell you what, I'm going to have Bob Proctor sign the $100 bill as well. So you have my signature on it, Bob Proctor's signature on it. 350, 350, 400, 450, $500. You give me $500 for a bill, $100 bill with my signature and Bob Proctor's. Anybody here give me $1,500 for this $100 bill? 1,500. Okay, good. Keep your hands up if you give me 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this in a really nice frame. You can hang it on your wall. You can put it by your desk or in your office or somewhere you'll see it. It might inspire you. It might get you excited about your business. It might even be a lucky $100 bill. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but it may bring you some luck. Who would give me $2,000 for this $100 bill all signed up like that? I tell you what, come up to the front if you give me $2,000 for this $100 bill. Real quick. 2,100, 2,200, 2,300, 2,400. It's framed. It's beautiful frame. You'll be able to, it'll inspire you. $3,500. Who'll give me $3,500 for this $100 bill? Okay, good. Go back to your seat when I hear your number. This is a real auction. $5,000 for this $100 bill. $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. $10,000 for this $100 bill. $10,500, $11,000. $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, $15,000, $16,000, $20,000. You'll all give me $20,000. $25,000 for this $100 bill. $26,000, $27,000, $28,000, $29,000. $30,000. You know this is a real auction, right? You'll pay me $30,000 for this, right? Signed and framed and all that. $91,000, $92,000, $93,000. Is Eric in the house? Where's Eric? I don't know what to do at this point. $100,000 for this $100 bill. $200,000. Anybody here? $250,000? You're gonna pay $300,000. Okay. Who else? Anybody else? Anybody gonna beat $300,000? You're gonna pay $500,000. Do you know that's the most that anybody's ever paid for a $100 bill, I believe, in the history of the world? 1.5? Have it? I got it right now. 3.2. You have it right now. Oh, okay, 3.2 million. He gets it. Come on up here, sir. David? Yes. What's your last name, David? Martin. David Martin. Where do you live? Atherton, California. Atherton, California. You just agreed to pay $3.5 million for this. $3.2 million for this. I'm going to tell you right now, that money is going to the Starkey Hearing Aids Foundation. You will help. You will help tens of thousands of children have hearing aids all over the world. That blew my mind. I had no idea that was going to happen. Here's my question for all of you. Drop in the comments one thing that you learned from that. Drop in the comments one thing that you learned from that. I'm going to share some things, a couple of things, but there's a lot of lessons in it. I learned things being on that stage. I expected, nobody in the audience knew what I was going to do. The speakers, the organizers of the event, Eric and Marina Warre, they were the only people in the room that knew what I was going to do. And I had done this before in other much smaller groups, but never got anywhere near 10. The most I'd ever received was $7,500 for the $100 bill. I had no idea it was going to that was going to happen. That was a real auction. David donated that money to the Starkey Hearing Foundation. He was one of the co-founders at Oracle, but I didn't know he was in the crowd. So what did you learn? Drop a comment. Damien, what did you learn from that? I'm curious.
Well, a number of things, and I'm going to try to, just for sake of time, just keep it limited to, you really never know who's in the audience, number one. But the other big thing was just watching the power of, like, when they step into that $100,000 bid club, it takes a lot to get them to sit down. Like, did you notice when they all like started getting closer together and they were all in the 6-figure bid club? It's like they held on until he got into the millions, and then they all started sitting down. But
So
it was just really interesting to watch the psychology go down.
yeah, in fact, speaking of psychology, and by the way, I apologize. I have my windows here, and the sun was on my face when we started, and I don't have any front lighting here at this place, and so I'm just dealing with. So I apologize. I'm a little dark here in the picture, but the price that they were paying when it hit 25,000, it was no longer about the $100 bill. It was about ego. It was about winning. It was about competition. And if you think about it, there's value in that for people. That's why they're willing to do it. So in your business, the business that you're building, you can build that into your business, because people will do things to win. What something costs is not what it's worth. This is another lesson. What something costs is not what it's worth. There's things that you can do to help people really perceive the value that's really there. What determined the value of that $100 bill? And the words matter. Like, as soon as I added a $50 frame to that $100 bill, I added tens of thousands of dollars of value. But it wasn't the value of the frame. It was the value of winning, the value of getting it, the value of having it in your hands, with Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki and Bob Proctor and Eric and Marina Wari and my signature, having that signature on this thing, it symbolized something to people. That symbolized something. It symbolized success, having that in their hands. Why would somebody pay $60,000 for a picture of Frank Sinatra signed? Why would they do that? $60,000. It's paper and ink, and
They wanted it their way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. So this is my last thing that I want to share with you. And I've sold over 1 million copies of Beach Money, significantly more than that now, and got a second book out there. But I want to talk to you briefly about the strategy for doing this. And it was a decent book. You know, it's the one Damien held up. It has to be good. Like McDonald's, they don't have the best. Like, Damien could probably make a better burger than a cheeseburger at McDonald's, right? But Damien's not selling billions of dollars worth of cheeseburgers. McDonald's is. Damien's not. Why? Because of distribution. So 95% of all really, really, really good books never sell a single copy. 95% of good books never sell a single copy. The author completes the book. They order 50 to 500 copies. They give them to all their friends and family, and no one ever buys a book. Beach Money came out at a good time. It was 15 years ago. It was a time where there weren't a lot of books written about network marketing. That helped. But also, I understand distribution. And I've got a relationship with the ANMP, the Association of Network Marketing Professionals. I speak on their stages. They have a community of not that many people, a few thousand people, but those few thousand people have a reach of 5 million of people that are involved in my profession. My publisher had a reach of about 250,000 people. Donna Johnson, who's the top distributor in Arbonne, had a reach of about 1 million. These are people I know, people I have relationships with. Jeff Welch, 250,000. BNI, Business Network International. I had a relationship with that organization, 250,000 people. So here's what I did. I did something that most authors don't do. The ANMP was having an event. There were 80 speakers in 4 days. Every speaker had 20 minutes. I had 20 minutes on the stage, 4 days, 80 speakers. It was ridiculous, to be honest. Lots of those speakers had books, and they were selling the books in the back of the room. I decided I was going to give all 1,000 people at that event a free copy of my book. Why? Because many of them had very, very large communities, and I knew if they liked my book, they would promote it on their weekly trainings. I also sent 10 signed copies to every influential person that I knew. And I knew that they would share it on their podcasts and they would talk about it from the stage if they.
That was before
like,
podcast.
What's that?
Might have been before podcast. I'm just kidding.
Oh, it wasn't. No, actually, you know what? Some of them had, like, they may not have called it podcasts, but they had trainings that they did online. You know, a lot of them were conference calls. They were conference calls.
Remember the old conference calls?
Yeah, that's what it was. They were doing
actual telephone conference calls.
Right.
If you remember the conference calls.
That's what it was. That's what it was. It was stages and conference calls back then. Today we call it Zoom and podcast. Same thing, right? So the result of this is I created this just absolutely wave of growth where, and just to tell you, 100% of the profits from my book go to an organization called Kiva. It's kiva.org. And Kiva is a micro-lending, they're the largest micro-lending organization in the world. And Beach Money for many years was the #1 contributor to Kiva. So we have helped over 10,000 people start businesses all over the world in developing countries.
Wow.
To the tune of $450,000. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. So I'll wrap up here. I've got all kinds of stories and lessons and fun things we could talk about, but whenever Damien and I get together, we have fun things to talk about. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right, man. Well, let's also turn it over to our audience today. Did you enjoy that? Let us know in the chat. And then also, how were you inspired? I know a couple of you probably have your question ready. We've got about another 15, 16 minutes here. I am going to take Jordan through the lightning round. But yeah, Steve, I knew you'd like this. This is fun, man. I met Jordan and was like, all right. So the happy hour was the first thing, right, that came to mind. I'm like, okay, I gotta introduce him to our community. And so again, very motivating. You know, if you read, by the way, Beach Money is available on Amazon. If you read Beach Money, what I have so far taken out of the book, first of all, you guys all want to have financial freedom. I get that. That's why you follow me. That's why you're in this community. That's why you're in mobile apps. That's why you're a digital marketing agency, right? And so this is extremely motivating to hear what he went through for the 10 years. Tenacity of not giving up, but yet giving up, like he said, you know, giving up and then restarting and giving up and restarting. And I asked all of you if anybody could relate to that. I think 3 or 4 of you could relate to that, which means 4 times that of you on here can relate to that. So go back through this happy hour, watch it again, and be inspired by Jordan. Read his book. And is that the best way for them to follow you? Is get your book, or do you have a way for them to follow you?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. I'm a social media guy, but not a huge social media guy. It's really more just, I do post a lot on there, but check out at Beach Money Jordan on Instagram. That's a great way to just stay in touch. And you can shoot me a message on there if you need to. I'd love, if anybody has any questions, you could just unmute.
We'll get a couple questions in. Some will just do chat. Some might unmute. I'll ask you for the first lightning round question while they get their questions together. So one of you get ready to hit Jordan with your question. The best advice you've ever received. Keyword is ever received.
You know, you prepped me with these questions, and I didn't prepare at all for them. So I have to, when I go back, Jay Smith, he said, only do what's worth duplicating. This was probably the thing that had the greatest impact on my life and on my business.
One more time, only do what's
worth duplicating. Meaning, don't do things that you don't want other people to do. You know, be an example that you would want other people to follow.
Even competition.
Well, if you focus on collaboration versus competition, then there's really no competition. There's always things you can collaborate on. So Jay taught me that. So here's what happened. I'd been struggling. I saw myself as a leader at around the time I joined my 12th company, my 12th network marketing company. I saw myself as a leader, but I wasn't being a leader, but I saw myself as a leader. And I was struggling, and I saw people around me that were growing, and I was getting really frustrated. And I was with Jay, who was my mentor. In fact, my book is dedicated to him. And he's married Meg. He passed away a number of years ago. We were very close. And we were sitting down and I was complaining about my lack of success. And he said, Jordan, the reason the reason there's no growth happening in Phoenix is because there's no leadership in Phoenix. And I took that hard because I saw myself as the leader. And then he said, you've got to start doing what's worth duplicating. And that, I didn't really get it for years. Like I heard him say it and I remembered it, but I didn't really get the impact of it for years. And so even whether you're building a team or not, if you focus on doing things that are worth other people duplicating, then ultimately your business will and your life will grow in a positive way. Think about being an example to your kids. Only do what's worth duplicating, right? So that's probably the most meaningful and powerful advice that I was ever given.
All right. Love it. Love it. So you've been in Phoenix and Scottsdale area a long time, right?
Well, I lived there for years. I've got a home in Jerome, which is in Arizona, which is a couple of hours from Phoenix. And then I've got a home in the mountains up on Mount Charleston in the forest, which is about 45 minutes outside of Vegas, but it's the tourists don't go there. It's like 8,500 feet. It's we get deep snow in the winter and there's a ski resort. And then I've got a condo on the Vegas Strip, and that's where I'm at right now.
Got it. Do you ever run into my old mentor? I say old mentor, Tom Hopkins out there in Arizona?
You know, Tom, he's getting old, man. He's up there. He was my mentor for many years. I went to his boot camp in the 80s and he's spoken on my conference calls back when they were conference calls. We never did a Zoom together. But I was very close, and I haven't talked to Tom in years. He kind of lost.
You know what we should do? You know what we should do? You and I, you know what? I call him my mentor as well. Had a lot of personal time. Like I shared with you my stories and stuff.
Yeah.
You and I should I'll ask Omar Perry. Many of the people on here know Omar, and he's a good old buddy. And we'll just get an idea of schedule. You and I will sync up on schedule.
Wouldn't it be awesome? Is Tom even out? I don't know if Tom's out still doing training. Is he?
Well, no, we'll just drop in when he's golfing one day or after.
Oh, yeah.
Like we'll get a schedule and you and I will drop in.
I would love
two
that.
of his mentees, if you will. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like that's a great story we can tell.
He changed my life. His boot camp and his book, his first book just changed my life. It was so good.
Me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've been telling everybody in this community for the last 13 years as to how and why he was my mentor. And so I'll just do a little piece of it because I know we're going to wrap up here. But so for credit card processing, Tom Hopkins was chosen as the spokesperson for the company that I represented, my little independent office selling merchant accounts for accepting credit cards, the terminals back in the glory days when everybody was going from this to this was just amazing from 1990 to 2000 plus. And at some point they went from Steve Garvey because a lot of bad PR came out about Steve Garvey. So they went to Tom Hopkins and all of a sudden I was the #1 office out of 1,000 independent offices nationwide. So I got all the attention and I got enrolled. I got sponsored into all his boot camps and the whole bit.
Did you speak at his boot camps?
I was able to, no, I was only able to recite all the stuff that I learned and get my awards and all that stuff. I never really spoke, but I became really good friends with one of the only licensed speaker for Tom, which is Omar Perry, which is our buddy down in South Florida. So anyway,
Nice.
A little sideline story there. So you and I were going to go see our mentor before he passes. You know, you're right. He's got to be, I want to say
He's got to be in his 90s.
90s?
I don't know. I bet he's 90. I don't know.
All right. Well,
somebody Google it. Somebody Google it and tell us. Put it in.
All right. Well, we better get moving. All right. Next question. Good to see you on here, Kevin. How you doing, bud? So next question.
Any questions?
A book that you would, well, this is just in the lightning round.
Gotcha.
A book that you would recommend to this audience and
Yeah.
why? Besides Beach Money, which I already recommend to everybody on here, Beach Money, and Better Than Beach Money, which is the #2. But what book would that be, Jordan?
Yeah. So there's a book that I've given away probably 200 copies of, and it's a short book. It's an easy read. It's a book you can read in 2 sittings. And it's not available on Amazon, I don't believe. It's called U Squared by Price Pritchett. Pritchett. I don't know if it's an audiobook, but it's an easy read. If you're more into audiobooks, you'll still be able to read this book. It's life-changing. It causes you to take it helps you to see the pathway for taking quantum leaps in your business and in your life. And it's really a cool book. It's a book that after you read it, you'll want to give it to a whole bunch of your team.
All right. So now you get, when I like to be cruel to my guests, I like to throw a little zinger surprise. And so your next lightning round question is the craziest thing that ever happened to you in your lifetime, ever, like the craziest, like you still can't even believe it all played out that way.
Well, the space flight is right up there, but there is something else that's happened. You know how I'm going to answer this question, Damien?
No, I don't, but I'm dying. I'm here. I'm loving this.
You might already know, or you might not.
Let's rock and roll, baby.
Do you remember us talking about anything like crazy that happened with the helicopter? Or no?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that one. I didn't realize that's what you would go for, but guess what? You blessed me that night. So sale vale.
Yeah, oh, that's right. We did talk. I remember talking about that now. Yeah. So I became a licensed helicopter pilot at the age of 57. And when I went into the school, it was a dream that I'd had, but I never believed it was really possible. Because I grew up in an environment where the likelihood that I would even ever be around a helicopter was really slim, right? So one day I decided I got the resources to do it. I want to become a pilot so that I can take my friends up when they come to Vegas and show them Vegas from the sky and just fly around, have fun, fly over the mountains, go to the winery and have lunch at the winery and fly back and just do that kind of stuff. So I walked in there and they kind of snickered at me because the only people that come into the school to get trained are 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. People that are adults, older adults don't come in and say, I want to get my helicopter pilot license. It just rarely happens. So I got my helicopter pilot's license in my 50s. I think I went in there when I was 55, got my license when I was 57. I've been flying ever since then. I'm 64 years old. I'm turned 65 in March. And about once or twice a month, I'll take friends over the mountains and we'll go have lunch in some other town, or, we'll fly around Seven Magic Mountains and I'll take them over Red Rock and we'll just fly around and have fun and have great conversations and most of these people have never been in a helicopter before. So I give them that experience, that dream. So I decided one day I was going to buy my own helicopter, and I did a lot of research and hired a broker and found the helicopter that I wanted. It was in Louisiana. And the helicopter needed to be inspected. It needed to be taken apart. It needed to be shipped across the country. Cost me tens of thousands of dollars to do all that. I had to put it back together. I needed to do some things to it to make it fully compliant in Vegas, and did that. And from the time I bought the helicopter, the time I actually soloed in it was 6 months. And I met this guy who was a referral from a friend. This friend had known this guy for 5 years. I met him and we got to know each other well. We hung out. He was a licensed commercial helicopter pilot. He flew every week. He flew A-Stars, which is a much bigger helicopter than I fly. Everybody knew him, as a commercial pilot. And one day I said, let's go fly. And he told me he had 3 helicopters just like the one that I had. And he said he had hundreds of hours in that helicopter and thousands of hours outside of that helicopter. So one day, it was on June 27th, 2019, we went out to the hangar, pushed the helicopter out to the ramp. It was a relatively confined area. We got in the helicopter and started it up, and I lifted the helicopter up off the ground. It's got dual controls, and I'm hovering over the H on the ground, right? That H that you see on a helipad. And there's a 150-gallon fuel tank off to my left, and there's a fuel cart, and there's a wall and a parking lot, and we're just hovering in that area, getting ready to take off. And I said, do you want the controls? I wanted him to feel the helicopter, and he said yes. And I turned my controls over to him, and within a quarter of a second, the helicopter tipped back, the tail flipped around and hit a 150-gallon fuel tank, pierced the tank, and within about 4 seconds, the helicopter just literally shattered into a million pieces with us in it, in the air. And if you read any accident reports, whenever a main rotor hits something, when you're in the air, you're dead, like people die. And the next thing I know, I blacked out for about 4 seconds. The next thing I know, they're pulling us out of the wreckage. And it's raining fuel, like raining fuel. There's the puddle of fuel was like 20 times bigger than the wreckage, right? And we're standing there looking at this wreckage, outside that. And then within minutes, we got news choppers overhead and the ambulance is there. And bottom line, to make a long story short, which it is a long story, is that the FAA, after an investigation, finds out this guy's never flown a helicopter in his life. He's never been trained to fly a helicopter. And he convinced me and everyone else around him, including the pilots at the airport and the mechanics. And it's a long story, but they did a full year investigation and they told me they were going to arrest him. And then COVID hit and a couple of years went by and he got off home free and he's got nothing. He doesn't even own, not only does he not own helicopters, not only does he not own he doesn't even own a car. He owns nothing. The guy is a loser and almost took my life and completely destroyed my helicopter. So that was pretty outrageous. I survived a helicopter crash and I've flown 60, 70 times since then. It was tough. It was a hard thing to do to get back up into the seat. But I did it. And 4 months later, I did it. And it's been amazing ever since. So yeah, so there you go. That's the most outrageous story I got for you.
Honestly,
How's that work, Damien?
I thought you were going to tell us a story about when you fell in love with the Green Fairy, but
oh yeah, that too. That's a good story. We're not going to get into that tonight.
All right. So the next lightning round question is an application. And by the way, I know, wow, right, Steve? Like when I heard that story over a cigar, I'm like, oh shit, that was crazy, right? Like, wow. Okay. Application, resource, hack, tool, something other than one of your own that you would recommend to this audience and why? For
like a date, like a dating app or something like that?
No, just anything for productivity, for better life, for better wealth, for better, anything.
Yeah. I like, there's one that I use every day that I really like. That's great for remembering. It's very much related to what I was talking about. It's called contact mapping. And a couple of friends of mine, a young kid and his father created it. And it's got some really cool technology that allows you to remember the details about people and make it really easily searchable as well. They've got some really cool things besides, of course, our app, but I love our app, but at the same time, but contact mapping is a great app.
Wow,
I didn't know if I was supposed to talk about our app but I love our app.
Which app is that?
The Send Out Cards app.
Yeah, of course. Dude, I've heard the whole model after 2 decades now or more has just evolved into like this crazy tech company that does this cool stuff. So the
truth is, if I was, no matter what business I was involved in, I'd be using that.
Yeah, well, we've got some crazy ideas that I'm going to talk to you about that we're going to come back around and tie it into our mobile app opportunity.
Perfect.
Where we're going to show how because what we do is we teach them how to build the mobile apps in advance. So think about taking the screenshots of the app that I built for you, put into that type of a deliverable, delivered right to them with their logo, brand, and everything in an app. Like, whoa. And then right? So we've got some really cool ideas that we're going to get into. So awesome. Nice. All right. It's the Send Out Card stuff, Joe. We're going to, like I said, we're going to invite him back and we're going to talk about the opportunity. I think it would be amazing with mobile apps. And so we want to dive in on that. All right. We are at the 90-minute mark. So we're going to wrap up. If there's any one question, if somebody's going to have to come off mute for this question, if you have one more question for Jordan, or we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Jordan, has been fun to hear the stories. I was wondering which ones I was going to hear tonight. I heard new ones, which is awesome. You're an amazing storyteller.
Thank you, Tara. Listen, that was something that she says this is the reason why she doesn't get in helicopters. Well, helicopters aren't supposed to crash. I mean, that's the reason he crashed. It's because the guy didn't know how to fly a helicopter. He'd never flown before.
And I have to apologize. And you guys all got to know that Jordan went to this 25-person mastermind bearing gifts. So he offered all of us a free helicopter ride around Las Vegas with him as the pilot. And then I went to sharing my story of what we talked about the night before. And of course, like half the people are like, shit, I ain't going. Sorry about that, man.
No problem. All good.
All right.
Damien,
well, let's wrap up.
Thanks for having me on. This has been fun. It's been great spending time with
Joe, were you raising your hand?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to shut down without you getting your question. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, I know that Jordan shared a lot of gold nuggets here. Can you share 3 things you absolutely would not do, given all the highs and lows that you've gone through?
That I would not do?
Yes. Like things to avoid, definitely to avoid.
Yeah, gosh, my brain doesn't work that way. So I'm like always looking at like what you should do. I can tell you to meet more people, like intentionally meet more people, because the person with the biggest Rolodex wins.
Okay.
I can tell you to connect more people, because when you make powerful connections, when you find people that are really great at what they do, and you put them together, you become the hero and they create magic. And the third thing that you need to do intentionally is appreciate more people. Like you got to be better. You got to get better. We all have to get better at appreciating more people. And I don't mean just sending them a text message saying, I appreciate you. That's fine. That's good. But what are you going to do to really to really show people that you care? Like, for example, if you see somebody that you're connected to that's looking for money for something, even a donation, even if it's anything, looking for ways that you can help that person, serve them, like there's a gift that you see, you're out and about and you see something that would be perfect for this person and you buy it and you give it to them for no reason, no agenda, but looking for ways to appreciate more people. So those would be the three things that I would focus on.
Got it. So I see what you did there. We're not going to focus on the not to do. We're going to focus on the positive of what to do. I will answer one for you on your 10-year journey real quick.
Yeah.
And Derek, I promise we're going to close down here in a minute. We're going to land this helicopter safely. I promise. But we're going to, when you went through that 10 years, like you mentioned something important, and I know a lot of people related. So I'm going to bring it up yet again, because it's a really key moment here. And that is the start again, quit, the start again and the quit, the start again and quit. I had a conversation today with someone. I don't want this to go down the rabbit hole, because the conversation was about the shiny object syndrome. And this is, I'm going to look differently in how we talk about that, because I wanted to let Les know, who was the gentleman I spent some time with today. You don't have a disease, and let's just get our mind out. I asked all the things that you've bought and all the things that you do, where you start again, stop again. Are you getting something of value each time? And absolutely, 100%. Okay, so you are paying for knowledge. Thankfully, you have the ability to afford the knowledge you pay for. And I go, and some of them you make a hit and some of them you don't, right? He goes, yeah. Then I go, you don't have a disease. You're blessed with the opportunity to buy the education that is of interest to you. And every once in a while, you make a hit. Lean in on the one you make a hit and make a score. Let's not be focused on the negative of the disease that I have, right? So anyway, different little sideline thing. But what you did was you found a business. It was a green opportunity, green pastures. Woo! And you hit a wall. Nobody cared about that potion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then you started up with another one. Then you started up with another one. Then you started up with another one. And you did it for 10 years. What would you do differently so that that didn't occur in the same manner? Or is it one of those things where I wouldn't have done anything differently? All that had to happen.
All of that did have to happen for me to have my story. However, I did learn a lesson that took me 10 years to learn. And that was that I can't keep quitting every time I hit an obstacle. I've got to make my decisions based on my commitment, not based on how I'm feeling. If you expect to have a successful business and you're making your decisions based on how you're feeling as to whether you're going to work or not, or whether you're going to persist or not, you'll never make it in anything. You'll never make it. You've got to do it just like with kids. You've got to do it based on your commitment, not on whether you feel like it or not. And that's one of the biggest lessons that's another one of the big lessons that I've learned. And so,
what would have happened differently in that
quitting?
cycle?
To answer your question, Joe, to answer one of your questions, one of the three would have been, don't quit on a bad day. Quitting is a thing that it is something that most people that don't make it, the reason is because they quit too soon.
Do you think some of those that you quit early on, you might have made a big score with what you've learned?
Oh yeah, you can become the cause of the
but like
success.
you specifically with your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. There would, if I had stuck through and learned the lessons, probably on, 3 or 4 of the companies that I was involved in, I could have been the cause of the success of the company. Like 99% of our company is a result of the business that I've built. So if I wasn't here, I mean, who knows?
That's wild. That's wild to me, by the way. Congratulations.
But I couldn't have done it if it wasn't for
now this is Send Out Cards. How big of a company are they today? What is this?
We got over 1 million customers.
But like Send Out Cards as a whole, like what is their annual revenues? This company?
100 million.
100 million.
Yeah, 100 million. Yeah. We've sent out 191 million cards and paid out, annually we do about 100 million. We paid out over $200 million in commissions.
You heard it today. Author of Beach Money and Better Than Beach Money, the guy who's earning beach money. He doesn't just write a book to talk about it. He does it. I love it, man. Go ahead and give some final words to the audience. We'll go ahead and sign off. Everybody's going to give you a big, warm Go Mobile hug on the way out. But what are your...
Listen, the only thing, the last thing I would say is no matter how you're feeling about your track record, if you got a great track record, or if you're on a great run, that's fantastic. But if you run across, we all run across, come up against obstacles along the way. That doesn't mean, like, the past doesn't equal the future. So whatever's happened in the past is the past. You can reinvent yourself. It's just a different way of looking at it. Just like the hummingbird, just like that example, that number example I gave you early on. Think about how you can view it in a different way, and you can completely instantaneously transform any situation.
Love it, man. This has been absolutely spectacular. Thank you so much, Jordan. I really appreciate it. What we're going to do now is everyone's going to give you a big hug on the way out the Zoominar. Go ahead, everybody, unmute and give Jordan a big sign off.
Woohoo! Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope for that helicopter ride with you.
Right on, right on. Cool. Hey, thanks, Damien. Love you guys. Take care.
All right, bro, have a great weekend. Thank you for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, well, another one in the books. Isn't that guy infectious or what? Like that, I just imagine me sitting down, smoking a cigar with this guy going, I'm in the right mastermind. This is great. Like, right? Just hearing his stories. And of course, I shared my stories. He was loving my stories too. All right. So yes, check module 3 if you haven't requested your website yet for the ERC program. Hey guys, it's been fun. Jordan Adler rocked. Pretty cool book. Really fun stories. Really enjoyed that. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Go mobile or
Go home.
Ho,
Go mobile or go home, birthday boy.
happy birthday.
Thank you,
Happy
guys.
birthday.
Thank you. You'll be hearing from me next week, every day in your inbox. That's a promise.